Happy Tuesday, all you minties. Uncanny Omar here from Near Mint Condition, the home of collected editions. And join me today for a look at these trade paperbacks coming out from Marvel Comics this week. Stay tuned. Before getting started, I want to give a huge thank you to David Gabriel and the fine folks at Marvel for sending us advance copies of these trades. All these books are due out in the direct market and book market on June 14th or 15th, depending on where you get your books. So we have a couple of trades today and also an epic collection. As always, I like to put timestamps in the description of the video if you want to jump around, if you're interested in just one book, or if you don't want to know any spoilers about a particular book. So those are all found in the description of the video. Let's go ahead and get started. Here we are looking at the brand new series of the ongoing Black Panther comic. This is now being written by John Ridley, who I don't think has written any comics, but by all means, please correct me if I'm wrong. But he did write 12 Years a Slave. And it is drawn by Juan Cabal, and this collects the first 5 issues of the new ongoing series. So if you're looking at it in the chronological reading order of T'Challa Black Panther, we are looking at books that take place after the intergalactic empire of Wakanda. So pretty much anything that's after Ta-Nehisi Coates' run on Black Panther. So you have this gorgeous cover of issue number 1 here. That also is the cover to the trade paperback by Alex Ross, who is a legend. But yes, this all starts off with the first issue. And this is pretty interesting because here we have the dynamic between Captain America, Thor, and Black Panther as they're fighting these aliens, monsters from another dimension. They get Doctor Strange to help them out, to help close the door. I kind of like the dynamic because it's always interesting to me to have a team full of characters that have all been leaders at one time and how they work with each other. It's almost like a respect for each other's boundaries in a way. It's like, oh, T'Challa's a smart guy. He'll figure out what the issue is and how to solve it. Thor and I will just lead everybody else to do certain tasks in the Avengers. So it's interesting because I think some writers get it and then others have a hard time writing the characters. But in this, we have this conversation between Captain America and Black Panther. They're talking about how, hey, you're a member of the Avengers and you were gone for a little bit because you had to deal with your intergalactic mess. Is that over now? Can you focus back to the Avengers? And T'Challa's like, yeah, of course. And it's just Steve reminding T'Challa that he is one of the chair members of the Avengers. So then we go back to Wakanda to deal with politics and what's been going on since, well, he had an outer space adventure. And if you haven't read it, I'm not going to spoil why he was in outer space or what the heck the intergalactic empire of Wakanda is. But then we get to what the story is really about, and that is these two characters right here. So we have the character of Omolola and Jai. And what we learn from this is that they are, at first we think they're having an affair. It's a married couple, they're out there at a restaurant, and it's all risky. But it turns out that what they are is sleeper agents for Wakanda. And let me just skip a little bit through here. And sleeper agents are not supposed to talk to anyone from the Wakanda Empire or get together or fall in love. It's really interesting rules that T'Challa set out. Well, one of them is killed. Jay is killed, and that's not a spoiler. So the remaining issues here that are collected in here, by the way, it's just the first 5 issues, are about who killed Jai. And of course, T'Challa trying to figure out and bring in the rest of the agents and warn them that, hey, there is someone out there trying to kill you all. And he's not going to be doing it alone because we get Omolola, who is interested in getting revenge for the death of her lover. So that's what the main story is about. There are secrets, there are twists and turns. It's interesting to see how the agents of Wakanda react to T'Challa coming to them and saying, hey, you don't have to do this anymore. Some of them are like, screw off, or some of them are like, oh, thank God I get to go back to Wakanda. but these are the villains that are going around killing them. There are some twists and turns in here, and of course he gets the help of Shuri. We get to see a reunion with the Storm. He has a confrontation with Gentle. Now, what's interesting about this is this third issue also serves as the 200th issue of Black Panther, since Jack Kirby kicked it off with that #1. So in celebration of that, they have a couple backup stories. One of them takes place in the past, and then this one here takes place in the not so distant future, and we're introduced to a brand new character that John Ridley said would play a big role in this series of Black Panther, and that is Tosin here. Now that is the only place we see him, and then we go back to our story of T'Challa searching for his agents. The artwork here is beautiful. It's all done by Juan Cabal for the most part. I really dig it. It's got a realistic style to it. Let me look at the extras here. So all the way in the back are the extras, like the different variant covers. Some of them are splash pages, and some of them are thumbnails. The book has 152 pages, and it retails for $17.99. But I am curious to see, if you've read this, what you think about it, and how it compares to some of the more popular series like Christopher Priest's run, or Reggie Hudlin, Don McGregor's run, or even the classic Jack Kirby stuff, and of course Ta-Nehisi Coates that precedes this. Next up is Avengers Forever. And can we just admire this wonderful cover? George Paredes would be so proud of this cover, with all these characters filling up just about the entire page. And I think of George Paredes because he was on Avengers during that time when Kurt Busiek wrote the Avengers Forever series. But this is different. This is an ongoing series, which I had no idea what it was. It is all written by Jason Aaron Cooter drawing the first 3 issues, Jim Toad drawing issues 4 and 5, with Carlos Magno supplying some of the artwork in issue number 2. So, I will say that I was a little confused at first, because I never read what the stories are about. I just kind of jump in and see if they captivate me, or to see, if I can figure out what exactly is happening. I was a little confused at first because it didn't explain something. So here we start off with Earth 818. We see somebody struggling to reach what we think is Mjolnir, but then it says, "Whosoever holds this hammer, if they be worthy, shall possess the power of all vengeance," which is a little bit different than, of course, Thor. But we are in a different universe. So cool. I can get that. And that was in the past of Earth 818. Different reality. Awesome. Then we meet this character right here, who is not our Hank Pym or Scott Lang Ant-Man, but is in fact Tony Stark. So he is the invincible Ant-Man. And he is one of the heroes of this particular universe. What confused me is that, what the hell is Ghost Rider doing here? This is Robbie Reyes, Ghost Rider, and Deathlock. Now, Deathlock, of course, comes from alternate realities to begin with, so I understood his presence here. But it doesn't really explain how Ghost Rider got here. Was it a flashback? So it's not until a little bit later that apparently he had gotten lost and trapped in this particular dimension, along with Deathlock. And it must have happened in an issue of Avengers that has not been collected, or one that I haven't read yet. So that's what's going on. Yeah, and like I said, I was a little confused just because I was so used to, when stories like this are being told, you're usually told through a flashback, like, "Oh yeah, I remember when we got here, we've been here for so long, I wish the Avengers would find me," and then how they got here. But there wasn't really a flashback like that. So that was the only confusing part. And I don't know if it works as an ongoing without having all that information. I would assume people reading this would be reading Jason Aaron's run on Avengers. But that aside, this book was hella fun. I am a sucker for alternate realities. You have the Black Skull here with his army of war machines that have taken over this world. You have different interpretations of the characters. This is a variant cover, and sometimes they're collected on the opposite side of the standard edition cover. Like, you have this half-built Vision here. You have the character of Mariama Spectre, who's unlike Mark Spector, of course. And here is Wonder Man and the Thing. And of course, all being led by the invincible Iron Man, and how they can all come together with these two strangers that are lost through this dimension to take on the Black Skull and his army. Awesome. I love that concept. I love the concept of alternate realities. I'm still a sucker for it no matter how many decades I've been reading comics. I just like to see different takes on these characters. So this particular Earth feels more like a Mad Max type of world where these characters are getting destroyed by the Black Skull's war machines. And of course, all hope lies with these characters. But they're not the only one, because in issue 4 we get a change in the story. Like, the story pauses at the end of issue 3 to tell us the story of these three ladies. And these three ladies may or may not be related to the God of Thunder, but I think just by looking at them visually, you can probably assume that they are looking for that hammer that we may have seen at the beginning. And then issue number 5 takes an interesting turn. So I am censoring the final page of issue number 4 to talk about issue number 5, which features Doctor Doom. And it's one of the most interesting takes on Doctor Doom, is all I'm going to say. I can't show you anything after this, but what the hell? This is just nuts is what they're doing, was what Jason Aaron is doing. Let's look at the variants here in the back. So here are your variants. The book has 128 pages, and it retails for $15.99. Those are the Russell Dodderman variants, and it is an ongoing, so it doesn't end here. I don't know if it's a maxi series. I don't know if it's going to be 10 issues, 12 issues, or if it's just an ongoing series. And as far as these characters here, I have no idea if they make an appearance or not, because, well, never mind. I will say some do within the pages of this particular trade paperback. And all the way in the back is a quick guide as to who is who on the front cover, because it is always fun to guess who's on the front cover, but if you really want to know the answers, they're all the way in the back. Love that they included Killraven there. Now, before we get to the X Factor Epic Collection, I did want to go ahead and show what the spines look like together. You can pause it here, but don't forget to smash that like button, please. Alright, let's keep going. So last but not least is X Factor Epic Collection Afterlives. Now, one of the things I'm going to say is that this particular book is really due out on June 21st. It's my anniversary. Awesome. And it's not the reason why I'm reviewing it early. But some of my viewers have already got their hands on it. Some comic book stores have already started selling it, so I figured I'd go ahead and do it now. Because there are a couple of other Epic Collections coming out next week, and I can focus on those at that time. So let's talk about this book right here. So here we have X Factor. This is a cover by Jander Sema. And then this is the back cover is, I think, from 107 by Kerry Gamble. It is a volume 9, 1994 to 1995. So this is where it gets interesting, because this is the era of the end of J.M. DeMatteis' run, the beginning of Todd DeZago and John Francis Moore's run. Kurt Busiek actually is the one that kicks it off, though, with this particular miniseries right here, X Factor and Spider-Man, or rather Spider-Man and X Factor Shadow Games. So all 3 issues are collected in here, as well as X Factor 101 to 111, X-Force number 38, and Excalibur number 82. And the X Factor Annual number 9 is also in here. I like the way they're scatter out the pinups of the X Factor Annual throughout the book. So there's like no blank pages. So here we have the little crossover. That was the Spider-Man and X Factor Shadow Games. We're introduced to this team of characters known as the Shadow Force, and they may have ties to one of the greatest superhero teams of the Marvel Universe, and that is, of course, the New Warriors. The artwork here is done by Pat Broderick. It's an interesting place to put it, because all the events that happen here happen before issue 100. So something huge happens, of course, in the pages of X Factor issue number 100. See what I mean? The pinups, like, back here. One of the characters ends up dying, so I'm not going to reveal who, but I'm sure most of you probably already know. But just in case, I don't want to spoil that for anybody. But yes, one of the members of the team ended up dying, and now they all have to deal with it. But that's where issue 101 kicks off. So it did come out in that format, by the way. That Shadow Games miniseries did come out after issue 100. So I think it's a good place for it, and so it doesn't break up the story any. So here we have all the members dealing with the death of a particular character. Professor Xavier and Storm come over to visit. Jan Dorsima still supplying the artwork. And I fell in love with her art. I thought she did a great job taking over both Del Keown on Hulk and then Joe Quesada on X Factor. We have the return of not Crimson Dynamo, the Crimson Commando, and Avalanche, who were once part of the Freedom Force, and now they've been almost revered, if you will, meaning that they have given up most of their body for these mechanical parts. Here is the annual. The artwork here is supplied by Matt Broom. And Matt Broom went over to Image after this to draw some issues of Stormwatch, if I'm not mistaken. We have the return of a character that appeared in the pages of Spectacular Spider-Man during J.M. DeMatteis' run, and that is Professor Power. But in here we start seeing some stories that are going to build around Guido, around Strong Guy here. One thing to note is also during this time is that Forge is now kind of their leader, working closer with Valerie Cooper. So that element was thrown in early on. But yeah, we start seeing some stories about Guido and how his health is being affected by his mutant power. You know, he's a big guy, so it affects his heart. And it does play out all the way up until the end. And the ending is pretty interesting. So we have the return of Malice. This is a heartbreaking story for my dude, Strong Guy. We have the return of Malice, but this time around it's not possessing Polaris like it normally does. This time around it's possessing Havoc. So the rest of X Factor has to get involved. And I remember when I got to read this, I was very excited for the return of Mr. Sinister and the Nasty Boys. While it's not Peter David's take on the characters, I always thought they were some pretty interesting characters. You know, they're not the Marauders. They're a lot different. They're a lot slicker, and at the time they were pretty modern and grunge. Here we have a couple of fill-in issues by Brian Hitch, who will eventually draw things like X-Men, X-Men Prime, go over to Excalibur for a little bit, but he does a couple of fill-in issues here. This is when he was still kind of new to Marvel, at least Marvel in the US, not really Marvel UK, because he had drawn stuff there. And then we get the big crossover, the Phalanx Covenant. Now, it's not the whole Phalanx Covenant event. This just covers the life science part, which is mainly X Factor, Excalibur, and X-Force. So it's the same story that you've been reading about in the Phalanx Covenant crossover, where members of the Phalanx, it's that race that Warlock comes from, Self-Friend Warlock, that guy, have been pretty much taking over a lot of the X-Men's bodies and have infiltrated that team of X-Men. So if they've taken out the X-Men, there's only a few remaining members, and this is, of course, the start of Generation X. But X-Factor, Excalibur, and X-Force have to deal with another aspect of the Phalanx. One of the things that they have to deal with is, of course, the return of Douglock, who has ties to the Phalanx, and you can find out why. That's more of an Excalibur thing, but it is also brought up because, well, Doug and Rain were so close, and Rain's a big part of X Factor. So believe me, all those things get brought up, and this is the final part right here. The interesting thing, though, is in the X Factor issue, even back here, we started getting covers by Steve Epting, and even in the X Factor issue, we do have some artwork by Steve Epting, who will become the ongoing artist when everything changes for the book. This is the back cover. Yeah, it is from issue 107 with the fight with the Blob, and this one here has been collected before in omnibus format. It is in the X-Men Legion Quest story, but by now we have John Francis Moore stepping in as the plotter, Todd DeZago doing the script, and it is the return of a character that I thought was dead when I read X Factor 70, but apparently he was just sleeping, or he was in a coma. And that is, of course, David Haller, the son of Professor Xavier, Legion, who wakes up, and this is where it all begins, Legion Quest. Now, if you have Age of Apocalypse, this particular story is not collected in there. It's only collected in the X-Men Legion Quest oversized hardcover. And I'm sorry, I meant Marvel Omnibus X-Men Age of Apocalypse, if you have that. That just has the main story arc. So it's the return of Legion, he takes off, but then something also happens to X-Factor, they disappear. and it's because Lila Cheney needs some help, so she needs her old bodyguard's help, and that is, of course, Strong Guy. So she takes him off to a distant place where she needs help. And then, of course, all of this ends in a huge cliffhanger because everything, and I mean the entire universe, is all being crystallized because of the M'Kraan crystal. M'Kraan, sorry. And that is, of course, the beginning of the Age of Apocalypse, the death of our universe and the beginning of Age of Apocalypse. So that's where this ends with that issue 111. Let's go through the extras here. So we just have a couple of extras. Some of the trading cards and that awesome Jander Sema piece of art right there from the Marvel swimsuit. What I was going to say is that, yes, this leads into Age of Apocalypse. I can't imagine Factor X 1 through 4 being collected in the next epic. I don't think they've done that. I think that's why we have those complete collections or Age of Apocalypse trade paperbacks that we've had over the years, of course, collected in omnibus format. I can't imagine them collecting, the Age of Apocalypse parts within the epics, but I could be wrong. I don't think they've done it yet. They didn't do it with Generation X, and I can't imagine them doing it here. The original idea, though, that was going to confuse the hell out of people was to actually change. So X Factor 111 would stop, then it became Factor X 1 through 4, and then it would come back 4 issues later, meaning that you would be missing issues 112 to 115, and it would come back with issue 116. But I think editorial stepped in and said, hell no. Then people are going to try to find back issues and not going to be able to find it. That is true. But yes, that's what this book has in it. It is 496 pages, and the book retails for $44.99. And that, as they say, is that. If you're interested in purchasing any of these books, check out our sponsor, cheapgraphicnovels.com, your online home for graphic novels and collected editions up to 50% off cover price. They have excellent shipping and prompt and helpful service. Check out their bargain deals for up to 90% off cover price. And don't forget, the CGN also takes pre-orders. That way you don't miss out on the hottest releases. And they are currently running a special promotion for you Minties. If you're a first-time customer, after receiving your order confirmation email, reply back to that email and let them know Near Mint Condition sent you their way. They will then apply a free shipping promotional credit to your next order in the US. Cheap Graphic Novels, your source for the hottest books with the kind of deep discount, quality shipping, and customer service that will keep you coming back for more. And that was the content and the page count of each of these books. Let me know in the comments down below which you are picking up, if this is the way that you are collecting X Factor, if you are hoping or were hoping that they would have included these issues, or some of these issues rather, in the Peter David X Factor Omnibus, if you hope one day we get a J.M. DeMatteis and John Francis Moore Omnibus. Would love to know all those comments down below. Let me know what you think about the new Black Panther run, and if you are still checking out Avengers by Jason Aaron. Everyone out there, please stay healthy and safe. Much love.